Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Diane. A little bit about myself. I am a 55-year-old transgender woman. I'm 19 months into my journey. I've been a registered nurse for 29 years, and I have found that in the last year of practicing the profession I love as my true self, I have never been happier or felt more rewarded. If you're wondering what this channel is about, it's about stained glass, because I'm all about stained glass. Today I'm going to do a simple little fun project. It's just a little blue, sapphire blue butterfly. A butterfly means a lot to me. It's my totem. It's a symbol of my rebirth, of my new life that I love so very much. So without further ado, let's get started, shall we? Now, in the interest of time, I've pre-foiled a lot of my pieces of glass. What is foiling, you ask? Well, foiling is when you take a piece of copper foil, much like this, and you wrap it around the piece. And you just stick it right to the center of the glass, and you keep it centered as you work your way around so that it's even on both sides. And it can be a little tricky, but I've been doing stained glass for 20 years, and I'm getting pretty good at it. I've gotten pretty good at it, I should say. I'm getting better at it every day. Okay, so now that we've got the copper all the way around, what we want to do is we want to fold it over against the glass surface. Just like so. But then we take it one step further. We take a roller and we roll that copper nice and flat to the glass. So it has a real nice smooth surface that looks beautiful when you're done. Just like so. There. And that is the last piece of glass that I needed to foil. So I'm going to turn this around so it's facing you and you can see the butterfly itself. This butterfly is comprised of 3 different colored blues: a very dark sapphire blue, a medium blue, and a light blue. And they're strategically patterned so that when you hold it up and put it in your window, it's going to look fabulous. So the first thing I need to do is I need to get my parts centered on the pattern that lies underneath. The same pattern was used to create the glass pieces. Each one of these glass pieces has been individually cut and hand ground with a wet grinder to the perfect proportions of the pattern. So once we've got all of our pieces pretty much lined up, the next step is to start tack soldering them together so they don't move around so much. Now, when I mean tack solder, I mean putting little tiny drops of solder on the joints between each piece of glass to keep them from moving around. In order for the solder to stick, you have to use a substance called gel flux. It's basically a catalyst that allows solder to stick to copper. So I put a little bit of gel flux on each and every little part here to get started anyways. Eventually the entire surface will be coated, but to get started I'm just going to put some tacks down. Now the solder I use is a 60-40 blend. It's 60% tin and 40% lead. That's why I'm wearing gloves, because I don't want to get any of that on my skin. The soldering iron I will be using is a detailing iron. It's a smaller iron. I also have a medium duty iron that I use for larger projects, but this is pretty small, so I probably won't need this, even though I have it fired up and ready to go, just in case. So we make sure our parts are good and lined up. And then we come in and we lay down just little tiny tacks of solder. The solder becomes molten and flows onto the copper surface. And once it does that, the pieces are bonded together. Now this isn't the final. I will be putting a whole lot more solder on here, but we're just going to get things tacked together for now. Sometimes these tiny little projects are almost as hard as the larger projects because the glass pieces are so small and have such small amounts of mass that you can just knock them around really, really easily. So I'm going to use some pins to hold some of these pieces in place so they don't move around on these so much. These are aluminum push pins. They're just specially designed for any type of work that has heat involved. Plastic pins will not work because they will melt and ooh, they do not smell good at all. And we just continue on with the soldering process. Putting little tiny bits down of solder just to hold things together. Keep this little butterfly in line. There we go. Okay, we've got the top and the bottom parts of the wings pretty much set into place here. And now we're going to put the body in place. The body is a real light blue semi-transparent glass. Now I got to make sure that my wings are symmetrical, looking the same on both sides for the most part. Nobody wants an off-kilter butterfly, right? Okay, now we're going to put more flux all over the piece because I'm going to be applying solder to every copper surface, even the edges, just like so. There. The solder gets super duper hot on the soldering iron and it just turns to liquid. And it's so neat how it just kind of flows over the project. I really love that. I'm just running the soldering iron along every little crack, just making sure the solder flows very nicely between each piece to give it the ultimate bond. This is going to be so pretty when it's done. So many different shades of blue. It's going to look very vibrant in the window, I just know it. Now this is the back side of the butterfly. Some of the glasses has a little bit different thicknesses, so what I do is I craft it upside down so that the front side is facing downwards. That way the side that you're going to see in the window is all flat and even. Now we're going to flip it over and do the front side. Very similar to how we did the rear side, except I'm just going to go ahead and put flux on every copper surface since it's already tacked together very nicely on the opposite side. It's not going to fall apart on me. Now it's very important that I keep the tip of my soldering iron clean. I have some brass wool in a little container over here off camera. And I just run the tip in the brass wool until it comes out nice and shiny, just like that. There we go. That's looking really, really good. I'm really liking how this is turning out. We just drag the tip along and let that solder melt, and then what we want is for it to form a nice little rounded bead that's very shiny. Because when I'm done, I'll be scrubbing this and cleaning it, and then putting a special buffing compound on that cleans the glass, makes it very, gives it a fine luster, much like fine polished silver. Okay, now what we're going to do is go around the entire edge and tune the edges of the project. So that's nice and shiny as well. Okay, all that's left to do really then is to put the antenna on and the place for the chain to affix to. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I use 16 gauge pre-tinned wire, and I create just a little U-loop in it like so using my brush. Okay, now that I've got the U made, what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to back bend the wire in two directions here. Then I just squeeze the back bend in the wire really, really tight. Like so. And we'll trim them so they're equal in length, because eventually these will become the antenna once they're affixed to the butterfly. And they also are the place for the chain to affix to. And I use silver chain. And I'm going to use 15 links. Why, you ask? Well, why not? That's why. No real good reason. I just chose 15. It's going to be held to the window with a suction cup. And I like to have enough chain to get the suction cup out of the picture completely, so that the butterfly is the star of the show, as it should be, right? Okay, so we're going to affix the antenna to the butterfly. I'm going to pin the butterfly down so it doesn't move around so much. And we bring the antenna right up into the butterfly like so. Alright, so now we've got the antenna. Now what we need to do is we need to get them curved towards the wings. So how I do that is I just grab a hold with the pliers and I just do a spin. Until I have two little round ends like that. And then what I do next is I just lightly bend them over until they're touching. the wing itself. And then what I'll do is I'll tack solder them to the wings so they don't move around so much. And then this is what we end up with for the antenna. And the next thing I do is I put the chain on, and then we're pretty much done. So I already have a piece of pre-cut chain here, ready to go. And it's going to go through the eyelet that I created when I put the antenna on. Then I'm going to place a little split ring on the opposite end so that the hook can fit onto the chain. I'm just going to do some last minute fine tuning here of the solder. And there you have it, one sapphire blue butterfly, ready to flap its little wings and fly towards the sun over the rainbow, where the skies are blue and the dreams that you dare dream really do come true. Thanks for joining, everybody. And always remember to be beautiful.